And just like that, everybody, we are back for another episode of Leap into the Week. Happy Monday morning to everyone. And as always, a pleasure to bring to you Mr. Patrick Fingles, President, CEO over at Leap. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Man, doing good. Folks, if you have not checked it out, make sure you check out weeks 1 through 5 for some incredible stuff. Last week, we were able to talk to Patrick about the value of radio and something that I know a lot of people out there have had a lot of questions about. And hopefully get some value out of that. So if you're wondering if radio is the right choice for your contracting business, go back and listen to week number 5. Now today, man, you are the perfect person to talk to about our topic today. And that is, how do you develop leadership within a company? And I think that there's this tug of war between, do you hire from the outside, bring in new blood into a company? Do you promote from within? And I'd like to start with more of a general question to you about that, Patrick. As a philosophy, is it better to bring up from within the company or to hire from that outside and bring in new blood? What are your thoughts?
Well, so I learned something, and it's funny, man. As your business scales, you get exposed to new things, and you're like, "Oh man, I wish I would have known that when I started."
Mm-hmm.
It's really important to delineate. Well, what are you doing? Are you hiring ability, or are you hiring experience? Because if you're hiring experience, it's more black and white. I need someone that has managed a 20-person sales team and has pivoted them from an inbound sales team working radio leads to an outbound sales team that works, canvassing leads. It's a harder to sell lead. I need the experience. So then I look at my org. Does anybody, maybe not the person that is going to lead the charge, but do we have the experience inside the company, period? And if the answer is no, then you have no choice. You have to go outside because you need the experience. You need the playbook. Now, if you have the experience, because maybe you have it personally, you did it at another company you were at, your CFO knows how to do it, one of your executive knows how to do it, but they're not going to lead the charge. Then you say, hey, we have the experience inside the company. It's there. We need somebody to lead the charge. So then you're looking, okay, do we have somebody that we can develop? Does somebody have the leadership still? With this experience guidance, can somebody come up and become an executor, and then they get that valuable experience for themselves? And they did it in a number 1 seat or in a number 2 seat. So that's a delineation I think a lot of people don't make when they think about it. They just kind of, hey, you know what? We should do X, Y, Z. That's the next thing for our business. All right, great. Who do we have? It's always easier to take somebody from within because hiring's a pain in the ass. Is experience relevant? No, experience is not relevant. Okay, great. Let's pull them up the ladder. That typically fails. It can succeed if you think through that and be like, we don't have the experience internally to support this leader, but I do have somebody in my network that we're going to bring on a fractional basis as a mentor to this leader. I'm going to connect the 2 of them, and collectively they're going to run it. So I call it the number 1 and number 2 seat. The number 1 seat is somebody that's actually done it. The number 2 seat is somebody that's actually been brought along for the ride, and now they're ready to take the number 1 seat.
All right, well, let's talk about that. I wanted to go back to something you said in an earlier, I think it was week number 3. We talked about the stages of the business, stability. All right. Mm-hmm. I think it can be easy, Patrick, when you got a great sales rep and stability to want to move that person over to the management position, but too often it doesn't succeed. The talent they had in the position of actually doing the work doesn't transfer into the management. I'd like to know your opinion on why that happens so often. Is it a failure of leadership from that number 1? Is it culture? Is it that it's just talent doesn't translate to management?
Well, most of the time, well, the reason it doesn't, well, why does it happen? Most of the time, it's your number 1 rep is looking for a promotion, and you don't know how to tell him no because he's going to leave and he's going to go get it someplace else.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? So let's just call a spade a spade. I mean, people push their way to the top, and good for them. They should. They've been successful for you. They deserve it. If you're not going to do it for me, somebody else is going to do it for me. So give me the opportunity.
Do you ever weigh in your
You're in that hard situation. What most of the time happens is you try to extend that window as long as you possibly can, right? So like you string your people along, really. I mean, that's what people do. And you're like, hey man, okay, next year I need you to do this. Go read this management book, yada 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 yada. And so you end up kind of doing that. Going back to the experience thing, experience is a really important thing because you're like, hey, we don't have somebody on the team that's done this, so I don't have somebody to connect you with. I'd love to let you lead the charge, but I can't. I need somebody that's been there, done that. I need somebody that's got the successful track record for the experience. So what I can do is I can bring them in and you can work underneath them, watch them lead the charge. And then once you have that number 2 seat experience, then effectively you'd be ready to take the number 1 position. You'd be ready for management if all things go well and you're still interested once you understand what it takes. But you're not coming from a vantage point of experience right now. You're coming from an vantage point of thought. So that's the way to kind of do that right and properly. And if you do that, I think it can work out. Look, there's all these all these quotes: those who can do, those who can't teach, right? Like there's it's like you're in sales for a reason, but I have seen the best salespeople become the best sales managers, and I have seen the best salespeople be the worst sales managers. I've seen the worst salespeople become good sales managers, and I've seen the worst salespeople be terrible sales managers. So I don't have like a hard and fast rule. I mean, it is a you always start with a job description. What is the job description? Then you then you go to what's called a candidate profile. Here's the job description. Here's the skills that I need to do that job. Here's the comp to support those skills. Here's how much I have to pay to get that in market. So if you think of those 3 things, and then so if you have somebody, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, you take those 3 philosophies. Do you check the boxes on this candidate profile? If you're a great salesperson, great. If you're a bad salesperson, great. Do you check these candidates? Do you check this profile? Because this is the job description. This is the profile needed. And here's the comp I think I need to get that profile. If you can get on board with the comp, you check the profile, then great, job's yours. With the exception of whether or not I've delineated that I have the experience so I can give that person that first opportunity and they can be the number 2 behind me, or whether I haven't actually done that. Doesn't mean there's a difference between I think I can and I have.
Mm-hmm.
And or so I need to go out and I need to buy the experience. So if you take that kind of algorithm or that kind of matrix and say, okay, do we have the experience on site? We don't have the experience. Okay, we're buying it. That answers that. Internal, external conversation. We do have the experience on site. Okay, great. Job description, candidate profile. Do we have anybody that fits that candidate profile? And put blinders on to what they do inside your company. Put blinders on to whether they're good at sales or not. Just put blinders onto that. Do they fit the candidate profile to accomplish the job description? And if they do, you hope the comp works. And if the comp doesn't work, then I'm sorry, I got to go out to market, because this is the fair comp for this. And it makes it a lot more black and white,
So I've got to know this from you, because you've built these companies. You're crushing it with Leap. Everybody sees it right now. You ever made the mistake, man, of following, let's just say, or maybe it's not a mistake, following your gut on somebody? Like, you saw everything you just said right there, but you just looked at the person, you go, there's something about them that I feel in my gut as a leader it's going to work. I'd want to know from you, has that worked out for you? What advice do you have for other leaders out there who may be struggling? Like, maybe this person isn't the most experienced, or maybe they don't have the most sales, but I got a feeling, I got this gut that tells me they're right for this position.
Yeah, it's probably like asking me if I'm up or down in my lifetime at the casino. I'm like, I think I'm break even. Just, no, I just, no, yeah. I mean, there's successes. Listen, the thing I just said, I didn't do that. I promoted my best guy and I brought people along and we did it on swag. And a lot of times it worked, but here's this thing. Have you ever heard of Peter Principle?
No, talk to me about
it. Peter Principle, you can Google it. Peter Principle is the idea that you promote somebody till they're incompetent. Okay. So, Jennifer does a job. Jack does the job, whatever. Jennifer, Jack do job. They do it really well. You promote them. What do you do if they do that job really well? You promote them again. What do you do if they do that job really well? You promote them again. And this continues until they either are the CEO of the company or they can't do you've taken them up and they're like, oh, they're not doing it again. Because, I know like companies like, no, that's not true. I do my job really well. I've never been promoted. Well, maybe that company's not growing or something like that. But the logic of it is if you promote somebody based on whether they do their current job really well or not, and you followed that pattern, eventually they would get promoted until they're at the top of the ladder and or they failed. Mm-hmm. And I've done that many times in my career. I've promoted people to their incompetence level. And incompetency is such a nasty word. Like the word incompetent, it's got such a negative tone to it, but it's really not a negative word. Knowing what we're competent to do and what we're not competent to do is really important in life. Like, you need heart surgery. You don't want me slicing your ass open, right? You need to get from, here to Florida in a hurry. You need a pilot. I'm not your guy. So it's really black and white. It gets blurry when something is just within your reach. Hey, I'm a sales guy. I think I could be a sales manager. That's not as black and white as asking him, hey, we're looking for a pilot. You want to apply? No, I don't want to apply. I'm not wrecking the plane and killing everybody. Mm-hmm. So it's like this gray area, but it's literally, it's just as challenging, we have so I just, so it's that's Peter principle. It's the idea of like logically, if you promote people based on how they do, eventually you can promote them till they're incompetent and then you let them go. And that happens a lot. Somebody's got that story. Like, man, I did that with Mike, man. He was my project manager. I made him an installation manager. I made him a director of installation, made him a director of ops. He was out over his skis. We tried to demote him back down, but it just didn't work. And now that he's had that director of ops title, Mike is going to go out there and he's going to get another job. And you're going to watch his LinkedIn every 1.5 years. He's going to move jobs as a director of ops because he's got the experience and somebody will take a chance on him. But he's just out over his skis. He was a great installation manager. He could have made a career out of it. Or, you can develop yourself. But what you need to do is you need to get in the number 2 seat. And that's what people forget about because they don't have the experience and they're trying to do something. So Mike, what he should do is like, man, I failed as a director of installation. I want to go back into an installation manager. I want to bring in an experienced director of installation. Let me work underneath of that person to see where my shortcomings are and where I was missing. Let manage to see that director of installation in the number 2 seat. And then I'm going to go back out into the world and I'm going to get a director of installation job. And I'm going to have my first crack at number 1 because I saw it in a number 2. So I'm interviewing. I'm like, hey, I was the installation second in command to the director of installation for a company that went from 10 million to 30 million over 2 years. I can tell you exactly how we did it, exactly what we do, exactly what my boss did. And I did it in the number 2 seat. I'm looking for the opportunity to lead that charge now. I've got
And that's my final question here for you, Patrick, is this. When you look at that within your companies, let's just say by a department, let's say a sales department, you've got a number 1 in sales, maybe a number 2 or 3. If you, let's say you get that guy, that number 2 out over their skis a little bit, who do you ultimately put the responsibility on to get that person up to the level they should be? Does it fall on that person who has failed at that position to be self-aware enough to go, hey, listen, I didn't know how to do this. I got to step up my own game. Or do you feel that falls on that number 1 within that department or company to go, hey man, let me reel you back in here. Let me say, hey, you're too far out. You didn't have enough experience for this one. Let me put somebody and put you in the right place to be able to succeed. Who ultimately, in your opinion, has that responsibility?
Yeah, well, listen, I learned this about 10 years ago. You're born with your IQ, but your EQ, your emotional intelligence score, your EQ score, you can change. So, that's emotional intelligence. So that's going to come down to both parties. What I just said about John, like everybody was like, man, that's John's amazing. Mike, I forget his name, but the guy that said I was under director of installation and we saw scale from 10 to 20 million. Now I'm going to go apply for a company that's working at $10 million round now. Tell him I was in a number 2 seat. I took a step back to really watch that and learn that. He had the emotional intelligence to realize that he had been put into a position that he wasn't competent to deliver on. Most people don't do that. Most people blame it on the environment. They'll blame. They don't take the self-responsibility over it. So in that scenario that you gave me, both parties can do it. If you're a salesperson right now, if you're a sales manager right now and you're struggling and you've never really been behind a great number one, and you're making excuses and you're shifting the responsibility outward and you're just trying to paddle and keep your head above water, trying to figure out how to get your reps motivated and nothing's working and your boss is breathing down your neck, it's very hard to be successful at something that hasn't showed you the path. I mean, just look at it, it's just organic. I mean, it's, you learn.
Yes.
So the idea that you can just do it, it can happen, sure, but it's better to learn. So, going to your boss and be like, hey, man, I think we should bring somebody in. I'd love to stay in a team lead role. Let's bring somebody in that has the experience, not somebody else. Don't promote somebody around me. That ain't going to work. I want to learn from somebody that's done this, has a successful track record. Let's go to market. Let's get that person. And then we can expand into another market, or we can open another office. And I'll take that once I'm ready, because I just need access. Or you got to go get me a mentor or something like that. I need access to somebody that's in a company that's higher up, that's doing this job successfully, so I can have that. I've read some books. I've asked around. That's not enough. I need direction. I need to take order. I need to game. I need a coach. So, that would be an awesome thing for that person to say, but they're just not open to that. They haven't been mentored. They don't understand that that's a good thing to say. And it's okay to not be successful at something that you haven't been shown how to be successful at. If that person's not saying that, then the manager can say that. Hey, I set you up. I haven't even done this. I'm asking you to do something that we don't have anybody in this company that has ever successfully done it. We're just operating on, we think we can.
The one thing I'm going to take away from this, Patrick, is the importance of experience. When you're talking about the experience of knowing you've been there before, you've done it, not you think you can do it, as you said, but that experience of an individual in a company, the importance, I should say, of an experience within somebody, within a position, to know you've done it, know how to do it, and these people who have the talent to surround them with someone who has the experience to show them that roadmap so that they can be successful. That's my big takeaway from today, brother.
Yeah. And listen, man, there's trailblazers out there. There always is, right? The Wright brothers built the first plane. Then Howard Hughes came in and built jumbo jets. And somebody came in and built, what was the big, I can't think of the company. But anyway, so it's like you don't have to, like, I always play devil's advocate. The idea that you can't do something for the first time without somebody showing you how to is an archaic way of thinking. Sure, we want trailblazers out there. But if you're trying to build and you're money motivated to build the most successful company you can do it faster with experience.
I love it.
So it is. There's a really important balance. The other thing I want to say, because I have employees, and it's not all about, you don't have to have experience to get a job. To get a promotion, that's not the point. You just need the right direction. You need the right learnings you need the right mentorship, and then you come up the ladder. So if you have leaders over top of young leaders, and those young leaders are developing those leaders, then sure, those leaders will be able to take those number one seats and they'll be able to lead those charges. But they've done it because they've been shown the way, at that size and scale. And again, I do like to have blended experience. So like I said, maybe your COO that you just hired, or your CFO at your roofing company, you took from a company that he helped grow from 10 to 20 million, and he knows go-to-market strategy. So now you can take, this guy that's been working for you for 3 years that would just do anything for you and is ready to lead that charge. So now you have the experience and you have the drive and the desire. You mix those two things together, the combination of experience and grit, and you're off to the races. So you are correct in that, but I don't want to shoot down our trailblazers out there. I want to be politically correct in that. Don't ever be afraid to throw your hat in the ring and try something that you haven't done before. But if you're not successful at it, experience could be the part. That could be the reason. All right. So, anyway, that's it. Yeah, experience. I just didn't want to isolate the charger, so.
Yeah, I completely understand. Well, everybody, I'll tell you what, if you want to go back and look at this, the importance of experience is definitely there in leadership, in my opinion, within your company. The people that are willing to step up and say, hey, listen, we're going to be able to help you get to where you want to get to. There's got to be that desire to want to help others within your company. And you got to have people that have been there and done it if you want to be able to grow. And then also, man, sometimes you just got to take a chance on those trailblazers.
Man, you want to be Lewis and Clark, that's fine, but we'll probably find your skeleton somewhere in the Rocky Mountains. but you paved the trail for the next guy, right? So it's like, I mean, you can do it, but I just, I've learned, along the way that, that experience, that matrix of like, it just makes it black and white. Do we need the experience on site? We do. Okay, great. We're going outside. Do we have the experience on site? We have it. Okay. Is there an opportunity for leadership development? What's the job description? What's the candidate profile to do that job? Do we have anybody that meets that candidate profile?
Folks,
so we have the experience. Maybe we don't. Then we got to go back to market, because sometimes your experienced person doesn't want to lead the charge. Like, hey, I got the know-how, I can mentor it, but I'm not going to do the day-to-day management on it. Matter of fact, often, and that's where your mid-level managers come into play. So,
well, that's because they have the experience to know they don't want to do it again.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I can help. I got the playbook. That's why head coaches have offensive and defensive coordinators that are out on the field a little bit more, and but they know how to lead the offense, they know how to lead the defense, but they're not doing it. So,
folks, his name is Patrick Fingles, President and CEO over at Leap. I encourage you to join us next week. It'll be episode 7 of Leap into the Week. We're going to be asking some first questions for him. In other words, if this was your first time going through this again, Patrick, we're going to kind of pick your brain on what you would do in that situation for a business owner. Folks, we're going to be back next week, every Monday here with Patrick Fingles and Leap into the Week. Until next time, everyone.